Welcome to Dunder Data Python Challenge number 5. These are daily exercises to challenge your Python skills. You can take the challenges at python.dunderdata.com. So in this challenge, given any number of lists of integers, return the maximum value at each position as a list. So we're going to assume that all lists are the same length here. Now this is a little bit more challenging problem. You can see that it's worth 2 points instead of 1. Any challenge that's worth more than 1 point is going to be a little bit more difficult. So let's go ahead and look at the sample input. It might be confusing to determine what exactly this exercise is telling you to return. So what I want to happen is that you see all of these lists is to look at each position of each list one at a time, or together, excuse me. So we're going to look at the first position. So 5 is the value in the first position in the first list. 2 is the value for the first position in the second list, and then 4. So we have 5, 2, and 4. So I want to find the maximum of those three numbers, and that's going to be 5. Then for the second position, we have 10, 20, and 100. So the maximum value is 100. And then for the third position, we have 3, 7, and -9, and 7 is the max there. So what I want returned for this specific input is this list 5, 100, and 7. Let's go ahead and begin our solution. It's helpful to know about the zip function. So the zip function will take in a number of different iterables. So here we're going to pass in each one of our lists as a separate argument. And then you can think of it acting like a zipper where each one of these lists is vertical. So think of 5, 10, and 3 vertical, 2, 20, and 7, 4, 100, and -9. And then it'll create this iterable object that goes through each one position at a time. So it'll go through all the first positions, all the second positions, and then all the third positions. So let's go ahead and see how the zip function works itself, and then we will answer the problem. The way the zip function works is that you pass it in any number of iterables. And in our case, the iterables are individual lists. So let's go ahead and write this. Now, our lists are stored in this lists variable, which is a tuple of lists of integers. So normally you start off the zip function and pass it in like list 1, comma list 2, comma list 3. All these lists are passed in as positional arguments, but there's a trick here that we can do since we're using an iterable itself to hold all of our lists, and that is to unpack it with the star notation. The zip function does not return a viewable object. It just sets up sequences that we can iterate through. So in order to view these sequences, we need to either iterate through them directly or pass it to some other function that knows how to handle these sequences. So here we're going to pass it to the list constructor, and we'll make a list out of all the sequences that the zip function produces. Let's go ahead and execute this cell, and then we can execute the function with this sample data to see what it produces. So it produces a single list of 3 item tuples. So the first tuple is simply the first positions of each list, 5, 2, and 4. The second tuple is just the second positions, 10, 20, and 100. And the third tuple is just the third positions, 3, 7, and -9. So for this function, or for this challenge, what we need to do is collect the maximum value of each one of these tuples. So we'll do that with a list comprehension. And since we will iterate through this, we don't need list to expand it and make it viewable anymore. So we'll say max of the tuple that is going to be iterating for t in the zip function like this. So we're going to iterate through this, every tuple that the zip function creates, and then find the maximum value and then return that as a list. So let's go ahead and execute this, and then we can execute with our sample input, and we see that we do in fact get the correct solution. There's a slightly different solution that doesn't involve a for loop. We can instead, let's just go ahead and comment this out. Instead, what we could do here is use the map function to map the max function to each one of these iterables that the zip function creates like this. So this will just go through each one of those tuples and apply the max function to it. Now, the map function, again, is something that is not viewable. We have to either iterate through it to produce the results, or we can pass it to a function like list to view the items in it as a list. So let's go ahead and do that. And So there is the alternative solution without any a direct iteration using a for loop. So both essentially do the exact same thing. And then we can just call this cell right here to use the assert statement to determine that whether or not we have this exactly correct over here. All right, so that does it for Dunder Data Python challenge number 5. If you enjoyed this challenge and would like to learn more, then come check out my books and courses at dunderdata.com. I provide a comprehensive path for mastering both Python and Pandas to produce trusted results. Below I have a few of my courses. Exercise Python will teach you the fundamentals of Python. Master Data Analysis with Python is an extremely comprehensive course that will teach you everything there is to know about using the Pandas library to do data analysis. And then my newest course is Build an Interactive Data Analytics Dashboard with Python, which is a really fun and exciting course and teaches you all the steps for launching your very own dashboard with Python.